everyone, welcome to another episode of Random Respawn, where we talk about gaming news, gaming things, and gaming stuff. I'm Josh Chagani.
I'm Marshall Behringer on the crappy mic tonight.
I'm Corey Trout.
And I'm Caleb Jones. Tonight, I think we've got a pretty decent lineup for the audience this evening. Wow, that was redundant. Anyway, we do have another question from the audience, which we will get to a little bit later. But to start things off, as usual, Josh, what have you been playing this week?
Recently, I've been playing Monaco with Corey. It's a co-op based heist game where it's a top-down view, and it's kind of the most interesting about the game is the art is kind of simple, but at the same time it's super complex. I mean, they just thought about all of these little details in the game. Like if you walk into a bathroom, you can actually use the toilet, or if you're sneaking and you're next to a wall, your character brushes up against the wall. I mean, there's just so many tiny details in this game, and for it to kind of look almost simple, but to be so complex at the same time is just really fun. I mean, throughout the game when you're playing, you notice new things that make you enjoy the game that much more. And when you play with a friend, it's equally, it's just as much fun playing with someone as it is by yourself, which is rare for a game. But the added element of surprise that the extra person brings really makes the game that much more enjoyable.
Many shenanigans are had in that game.
I'm glad you completely just overlooked our time together.
I'm so sorry. No, Caleb and I played last night. Was it last night?
Yeah, it was last night.
It was. I'm just sorry. Well, Corey and I have put, close to, I want to say 15 hours into that game.
I think so. That was definitely going to be my game that I said as well.
Wow.
We played for like 4 days straight, I think.
I feel fucking left out. Way to go, guys.
Wow.
Yeah. Corey and I were playing, and each mission towards the end would take about half an hour. Caleb, you and I were flying through it mostly because Corey and I made a ton of the mistakes beforehand.
Yeah, but we kind of knew a little bit more of what to do because it wasn't my first time playing either. I'd played with Marshall and Corey the other night. But I agree with everything you said about the game. It's really fun, and I'm really excited to actually play with 3 or 4 people consistently because I think that there's a lot of depth in such a seemingly simple game, and it's really a lot of fun. And I definitely recommend it to anyone, even if you don't have a group of friends to play with. I think it's still worth it for the experience on your own, and I think it's pretty cheap right now, also. So
yeah,
yes, the Monaco is my game as well. But I definitely agree with everything both Josh and Caleb have been saying, and the detail, the level of the little intricacies of the game make it awesome. I mean, Josh and I were playing it through the first time, and every level we were just like, oh man, whenever we found something out or did something like that. Even the little things like dogs track your footsteps and cats respond to sound and proximity, things like that. But I think the biggest thing that I loved the most about the game was like the Ocean's 11 or 12 type hijinks you can get into, the more people that you brought into the game and if you played it correctly. Because, I mean, Josh and I, he would be the gentleman and disguise himself, and I would be the person who could knock people out, and we would use those to our advantage. And I can't wait till we get all 4 of us in there with 4 different characters, and it's just like an actual Ocean's 11 movie, and just have somebody lead somebody to the other person, knock them out while there's a hacker. It's just, there's possibility for fun in a whole different way than I've ever experienced in a multiplayer game, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of possibility for fun shenanigans. But the one thing that was the most impressive to me when I first booted the game up is the art style that Corey and Josh were both talking about, but just the way that the whole game is laid out, and the top-down perspective, and the fact that any area that you uncover, if you're then not looking into that area, it becomes this blueprint of the map, and it's so different from anything that we're used to looking at right now. It took me about, I don't know, probably 15 minutes to really adjust my eyes to know where to look and to actually be able to identify what I'm supposed to be looking at. Where's the valuable information, just because it's so different. And I really liked that because it's been a long time since I've gone into a game and I'm actually sitting there wondering, okay, what am I actually looking at? it's so refreshing to see that level of innovation.
Yeah, they pack a lot of information on that screen, but they still do a pretty good job of like laying it out for you, so it's not like super difficult to understand. But yeah, it does take some time to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thing. It's not something that you could look at and immediately go, oh, okay, well, this all makes sense. But you're right. I mean, once you kind of understand the basics of how things operate and what you're really looking at, it does make sense. And then you can really appreciate all of the little details that are in there.
And I love how it caters to everybody's play style. Like we talk about other games who have like different classes, or if you play this way, choose this class. This game, honestly, the classes are so diversified and have so many different skills, whether you see them or they're hidden, that you can play the game however you play video games, however you choose to play. I mean, Josh liked to walk in front of people as a gentleman. I like to knock people out and be more offensive. And it's just, you can do that. You can dig through walls, you can hack all the equipment, and that be your thing. And I think this game, more than most, brings that level of diversity to a game of, if you really want to play the way that you love to play, you can. It's not, oh, I have to compromise here, but it's actual different classes that can cater to everybody.
Yeah, that's very true, because I really like the fast and sneaky type silent assassin type things, and I really like the lookout. It's the one character that I've settled on for the most amount of time, because you can see more of the map more readily, and you move, I think, like 5% faster than everybody else, and you can also see enemy locations if you're standing still or sneaking. You lose the ability to hack things quicker or to be able to knock other people out and have that offensive ability, but the core traits of that character really cater to how I like to play those kinds of games, the sneaky games.
That was one thing I was super impressed with the game, is that there's no class that's necessarily better than the other. Mm-mm. They did a great job at balancing everything out, in the sense that there's more than one way to get into the room, and depending on who you have, there may be better or worse ways to do it, but everyone can get into it their own special way, and there's not one character that's clearly better than the others. I mean, when Corey and I were playing, we were both really excited to get the redhead, which was a character, and we thought she would be great. She ended up not suiting either one of us, but she definitely had her own perks. They just didn't suit the way that we like to play. And that's really neat to see in a game, that it was balanced so well, considering that you can choose, 10 different types of characters, or maybe even more.
Yeah, I don't know what the character count is. I think it might only be 8.
Well,
it could be
the lookout, the pickpocket, the gentleman, the
cleaner,
the
lockpick.
Yeah, the hacker, and the redhead. Did I repeat that one? Lockpick.
No,
and the lockpick.
7.
I got 7 with that count.
Yeah,
I think there are a few more.
Did you say the mole?
Oh, the mole.
Oh, I didn't.
The freedom spoon.
So anyway, 8 characters, and then if you have 4 people playing, I mean, there's huge numbers of combinations of characters, and they all work. I mean, like you're saying, there is not clearly one broken character, because they all have strengths and they all have weaknesses, because there are so many complex things, or not complex, but there are so many different things that go into this game that create the puzzles, that it's viable for you to use any one character to complete all of the puzzles. And it's not really going to be, it may be easier in some situations with one particular character, but it's not going to be easier for, entire stretches of the game. It's a very, very interesting construction.
And this is one of the very few games that I had, like, if you do something wrong, I had a legitimate oh crap moment. Like, I thought everything was going to explode around me. But I mean, even Josh, remember that one time we were on the level that everything was burning and there were just a bunch of patrol people. And I set one off and I started running, which was a mistake in the first place. And I set like 3 more people off and I just said, screw it. And so I just did like a Pac-Man and was going back and forth running, alerted everybody, and finally got all the coins. Josh held the door open and we got through. But it's just like crazy moments like that happen from your mistakes. It's not like, oh, I made a mistake, I die, I respawn. It's, you make a mistake, you have to find a way to recover from it and continue going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you die, then your co-op partner has to come back to wherever your body is and revive you in order to finish the level. It's not just like a we'll restart from a checkpoint. I mean, if you restart, you have to do the entire chapter again, which is only one level that is composed of maybe 2 or 3 different rooms, but that still can, I mean, like you were saying, that can take half an hour. And so you get to the final room and you bugger something up and you die right in the middle of 2, turret cameras and a patrol guy with a dog, and your partner just can't get to you, and you've just thwarted an entire half hour's of work.
Yeah, justice is served.
Justice is served.
It's a nice, punishment for screwing something up and not really thinking as well about your options and an escape plan and things like that, which is what a death in a game is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a punishment.
Yes, indeed. Who has not talked about stuff that they've done?
Marshall, what have you been playing this week?
Man, besides playing Monaco, but I'm not going to say Monaco because everyone else has, and I want to be different because I'm special like that. I've been playing, recently came out Call of Juarez Gunslinger. I believe that's the subtitle of the name specifically.
Yes.
It just came out. It's for PC, Xbox Live Marketplace, and PlayStation Network. It's a downloadable game.
I thought there was another game called that a long time ago.
I think there's like 3.
Yeah, there are at least 2 others. One that was like early in the generation of the consoles, which I heard was pretty okay. And then another one which was like set in present day, which was really not good at all. But then this one's actually a lot of fun. Essentially, take the narration style of Bastion, mix it a little bit with Bulletstorm's experience points system, how you get like special kills and all that stuff, and then have a baby with Borderlands' cell shaded style with a little bit of skill system built into it. And then that's roughly the first person shooter that you get out of it. Oh, and then you also add Red Dead Redemption's bullet time, which is fantastic. The game's got a lot going for it, and I've been enjoying the absolute hell out of it, and I would definitely recommend all you guys to pick it up.
That sounds like one mutated freak baby of a game.
It's an amazing freak baby.
Call of Juarez, the cartel, came out in 2009? 2007.
Yeah,
Actually, no, 2007.
That was the one that was really bad.
The cartel was. And
that was not a good game.
No. But I was really surprised that they released this game at all, because I don't remember anyone asking for this game to come back.
Yeah, it kind of just came out of nowhere.
I was actually kind of surprised because when I saw it in action, I wondered why they didn't call it something else.
Oh, that's
why did it need to be a Call of Juarez? Why
it just made me think it was the Spanish knockoff of Call of Duties. Like every time I heard that, I thought it was a spin-off game of Call of Duty. Like some Juarez character was in the background of Call of Duty, and they made a spin-off on him.
That actually would have been really funny. But I don't know why they had to call this particular game Call of Juarez, especially if it's actually really good. I think they may have had more success if they'd called it something else and just made it an interesting arcade title. I mean, it sounds like it's got the workings of a pretty solid game. And
you could technically make that. Okay, hold on, words. Let me try that again. You could technically make that same argument with the last Devil May Cry.
Well, that's true, but that last Devil May Cry was a reboot to the series from a different developer. This is the same developer, right?
It's true, yeah.
It's the same developer, and Caleb. It's not a reboot. It's supposed to be an addition to the story, kind of.
I don't even know if it's the same characters or anything.
I don't know anything.
I've never played the other games, so.
Yeah, no, the Call of this Call of Juarez, where you get a perro for this one, un perro, which is dog, and
that seems to be
the
new
Call
trend.
of Duty where you get a dog.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I see parallels.
I actually don't think you get a dog. I haven't played it. I'm not going to, but I'm glad you liked it.
I'm never gonna play it, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Just so blunt.
It's kind of like, there are so many terrible movies out there, and I never wish for someone to go into a movie and hate it, but there are just some movies that you have to hate, and if you don't dislike them, then you're just not good at watching things.
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
That's one of them. I never saw that movie, even though I was supposed to see it.
That's weird. That's your first go-to.
Yeah, because Marshall just watched it. It's on his iPhone.
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
The story is we were going to the movies as part of a group for RAs because they were like, hey, you guys, you should come see Paul Blart Mall Cop. And a guy and myself were like, we're not going to see this movie. So we snuck away from everyone and we saw Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li, which was also not good, but it wasn't
lesser of two evils.
Right, yeah, completely. So we got out of there and we texted about 8 separate people individually because we figured that 2 or 3 of them would betray us, but not all 8 of them would betray us. And so we got back, snuck in with everyone else, and everyone else was talking about how bad the movie was. And so, at the end, they asked us, so what'd you guys think of the movie? And Chris and I were like, oh yeah, it was good. And they're like, it was good. And we're like, yeah, there's a lot of action. we just didn't care. We ended up getting caught, but our boss at the time was pretty cool, and she was more upset that we didn't bring her with us than the fact that we went and snuck off from everyone and saw the movie that we wanted to see.
I mean, it's their fault that they decided, you know what, as a group, we need to go see Paul Blart Mall Cop. That's what our plan is.
Yeah, that was a bad plan.
That's bad. That was a bad plan to begin with.
So, video games.
Anyway,
Video games. What were we talking about? That's right, video games.
That's right.
Sorry.
It's okay. And actually, nobody asked me what I was playing this week.
I thought you were just going to segue into it.
I know.
You weren't playing Monaco with everyone else, apparently.
I was going to, and then we started talking about Paul Blart Mall Cop.
That was Marshall's fault.
It's a terrible movie. We have to tell everyone it's a terrible movie.
Some of the time, perhaps.
Okay, fine.
I was playing Monaco with everyone else. I played a little bit more of Super House of Dead Ninjas, which I talked about last week, I believe. So I won't really go into that. The new game for me was Chivalry, Medieval Warfare. And
Medieval Warfare!
And that's pretty much Chivalry.
A dedicated yell button. That's when you know a game's good.
Yeah, it really is a first-person, medieval times, knights, battle royale. And when you start running, if you push the C button, your character will just yell a manly battle war cry. And it's awesome. You can decapitate people with a well-placed swing. And it's just first-person, hand-to-hand, well, not hand-to-hand, but close-quarters melee combat. And it's very fun. It's difficult to get used to at first, but it's a lot of fun. And if you can find it on sale on Steam, which I believe it was on sale this weekend, it will most likely be again.
Yeah, it was free to play this weekend.
Oh, that's true. It was a beta or free-to-play something this weekend.
It was free-to-play.
It's pretty fun.
Speaking of cheap games, the Humble Bundle Indie Bundle. Anyways, that's the 8th version is out, and it has 8 games and some really good titles like Dear Esther, Proteus, Hotline Miami, and it's all name your own price. So if you wanted to pay $1 for all 8 games, you could do that, and you choose how you want the profit to be split. So that I think that typically goes on for about a week or so. So that's always a really cool thing to do.
Another thing to pad your Steam library with games you might never play.
Yeah, there was a joke.
That's what counts.
There was a joke about the Steam Summer Sale and how that they should have a contest, and the winner of the contest will be able to refund games that he's never played from the Steam library, and that's what the winner gets. And I was like, that's pretty funny. That would be a prize worth fighting for.
I think so.
I mean, I can't tell you how many package deals of games on Steam, especially during the summer sale, that I buy purely because there's one game in there that I want, and it's like $10 for the whole thing, and you get 10 games, and I'm like, well, I can't pass this up.
Yeah, it's true.
So, you end up with many games that you either don't have any interest in playing or you just never get around to it. And
honestly, I think they should do that for consoles. They would make so much money because it's literally every person who's on Steam is like, oh, summertime, I guess there goes like $100 for 72 games. Like, do that for the consoles, you'll make money.
Everyone does that.
I mean, and just the whole Steam sales and things, it all just, I mean, I get on Steam and literally, if it's been about a week since I've really looked, I'll just get on and like, well, what did I have on sale today? You know, what's $5? Because I'll throw $5 at any game. You know, and if there were anything like that on the Xbla, I would probably just not ever have any money to eat.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Speaking of Xbox, a lot of the rumors that we talked about last week may or may not be true. And the thing is, we can't confirm anything because it seems like everybody in Microsoft doesn't know what's happening, because every single, and the thing is, it's not like some random journalist. There are people inside Microsoft giving answers and giving conflicting answers. So we can't confirm or deny anything that we spoke about last week. So that'll be a topic that we skip over.
yeah.
Bad
I'm looking forward to
Microsoft,
getting
bad.
back to that, but it's turning into J.J. Abrams, just answering questions with more questions with an island.
And a fog monster with a dead polar bear. That is Xbox One, I believe.
It is. That is the Xbox One right now. But anyway, I think now is a good time to reel this back in and get to the question from you, the audience. This question comes to us from someone who'd like to remain unnamed for reasons unknown to me. But anyway,
Legal reasons?
Possibly. You know,
I mean, it is the
Secret
internet.
Service? Can you tell us if they're in the Secret Service?
would not telling you reveal anything.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, the question is, it's directed to each of us, and it is to name one game that was better and one game that was worse than you expected them to be.
All right, I'll go first.
All right.
Not because we predetermined the order or anything like that, but I'll go first. I thought long and hard about this, and I feel like my answer isn't as good or as thought out as I'd like to be, but I couldn't think of anything better. And the game that really surprised me was Heavy Rain. I think the reason that surprised me the most was because I didn't like the game for the first 10 minutes, and then I was super drawn into the story. I had fun running around going, Jason! I mean, it had small things like that, but it was nothing. It was a game that I've never played like before, and it really was unique, and it really felt like you were, despite the controls sometimes being a little bit awkward, when you were prompted to do things, it really felt like the prompts that you were told to do made the character do those things. So when you had to turn a knob, it wasn't like you hit R1 and R2. You actually had to rotate the analog stick the correct way that the handle would open. So it really felt like you were controlling these characters. And there were so many things that you could do that would change your character's outcome permanently. And, you played as, but in the game you play as, I think, 4 or 5 different people, and they can die. You can lose one of those characters that you play with and not play them the rest of the game and get a certain type of ending. And that was a lot of fun. I really like that. But the biggest downside with me saying Heavy Rain was the game that surprised me the most was because I didn't know anything about it until I played it. Whereas Uncharted 2, I knew it was going to be a good game because the first one was so good. So it really was an absolutely phenomenal game. But I kind of expected that. Whereas for Heavy Rain, I didn't expect to be so enthralled with its story. So I think, I have a little bit of a bias towards that.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, and that's really what the question's asking. It's what did you not expect to be good, or maybe have low expectations in it, and it was better than that. And so I think with a game like Uncharted 2 that ended up being really good, it's true. I mean, it was really good, and we all kind of expected that. So it's not a game for this list.
That's true. And I will say, I don't think any of you saw this coming, but a game that really I had low expectations for, and it really showed me, was Resident Evil 6.
Oh,
I
didn't see that coming.
No, I don't think anyone saw that coming. I just can't. It was so convoluted. There was such a mishmash of different types of controls, and they wanted to be scary at some points, but it played like a shooter the whole time, so it wasn't scary. You had so much ammo. Wesker wasn't even in it because you killed him, so it was like, who's the main villain that's been the villain for the past every single Resident Evil game? They're like, how about this dude? And it was just, it was just not great. Oh, and the co-op was really bad, as usual. it just that game really was a disappointment, and I wish I don't have to keep bringing it up, but you asked.
Well, viewers. I keep wanting to call them viewers. Listeners asked.
All right.
So next, how about Corey? What are your answers?
Oh, okay. And you want to start with the good or the bad?
That's up to you, my friend.
Okay, well, we'll start with the bad because I'm a pessimist. I'd have to go with a game that like I was super hyped for and then just got it and just awful. It would have to be Brink.
Oh yeah.
The only reason I laugh is because I was flip-flopping between two to talk about, and that was one of the two.
Oh, I knew it. I mean, I today I went back and watched all the trailers and stuff, and it was like tooting all of these gun customization, like these free roaming levels where you can do parkour and get to other people and like all these special classes. And it was just a watered down version of every crappy shooter I've ever been a part of. And it like the multiplayer was terrible, like awful lag, and it just the customization of the weapons were more cosmetic than anything else, and I think that pisses me off the most. If like you have a dedicated trailer of 2 minutes of weapon customization, and then in the game it's just like, oh, you get to put this piece with blood on it instead of this piece that's rusted, like that just makes me angry. But I remember because we bought the game and we were all so hyped for it. We played it for about, I don't know, I'd say a month, got through all the achievements, and then they put out a free DLC, and that's more achievements. So the worst part about it is that I'm going to have to play this game a little bit more, and that makes me angry. But yes, there's too many things about it that made it look awesome when the game wasn't out, and then when the game actually came, it was just terrible. I think everybody who's played it can agree with me. There's probably some weirdo still playing it right now if the servers are still on that would disagree, but that person's wrong.
It's the same guy that's playing Dark Sector every now and then.
Right.
Except that was a good game.
It was a good game, but I mean, who played it for the multiplayer?
That's true.
If only the multiplayer actually worked, okay, that could have been a lot better.
Do you guys agree with my Brink being a terrible letdown?
Oh God!
Oh yeah, completely.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't. There are a few times in my life where my soul has been as crushed as when Brink just sucker punched me in the face. I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. I mean, it was all the trailers that we watched and any little piece of information that came out, we're just like, oh man, this game is going to be awesome. And the head of the developing studio and the other guys at Bethesda, I mean, they're all talking about it, and they're really talking about things that make them want to play games, and how these are all inspirations for designing this super multiplayer game, and it just missed the mark on every single note. I mean, it wasn't like the game was, maybe the gunplay wasn't as good, but at least the modes were fun and it was still okay. It could limp along. There was nothing about that game that redeemed itself. I mean, there was absolutely nothing.
Even the artistic style was supposed to be like something different or never seen before, or just better than most shooters, like more futuristic, if you would say, if you want to call it that. And it was meh, just not.
It all looked very
great.
muddy. It didn't look that good, like
Right.
compared to all the trailers. I mean, granted, on PC it does look better, but on the consoles primarily, it did not look good at all.
It was just a muddled mess. And then,
Yeah.
the whole area that you're supposed to be able to interact with and move with just turns into these big, chunky blocks of uninteractable stuff. I mean, there's the couple little paths where you can parkour up to a ledge or something like that, but there's still these big, just obtuse geometry, invisible geometry of the level layouts that just didn't make sense, and it was still large parts of the level you couldn't get to because of invisible walls and stupid stuff like that.
Okay, that's enough hating on Brink. I mean, it deserves it, but I think we'll go to some good. Now, I don't know if you guys know this game. This is way back when, but I think my most beloved and surprised game that I've ever played is The Mark of Cree for PlayStation 2. Does anybody remember this game?
I remember that name, but I don't think I ever actually played it.
It doesn't ring a bell for me.
I do remember the name, and I could probably describe the logo. I seem to remember that cover.
Was it like KRI Kree?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't. I think I played that. Was the guy like? Was the name like Rao or something like that?
Yeah. I'll give you the synopsis. You're basically like this tribal bounty hunter warrior person who's been raised by this elite warrior, and you have skills in like swordsmanship and like poles and like all these different weapons. And what surprised me the most is I think I picked it up on sale or like in that bargain bin at Blockbuster when Blockbusters were still open, and I was like, this is going to be a nice hack and slash. And it's honestly still to this day one of my favorite games of all time. It was innovative in a sense that it wasn't just button mashing. There was a lot of button mashing, but you used the right joystick to put out this like little beam of light or whatever that was just as far as his weapon could reach, and you can swipe that around, and if it hit an enemy, it put one of the other controls, like a button, like a square or a triangle or a circle above that enemy's head, so that enemy had a dedicated button to attack to. So it was a lot of like huge groups that you had to figure out, like press X and get this guy back a little bit, and it was so different from anything else that I've played at that time, I guess. And it was such a good use of the right stick when most games were only using it to like move the camera, and still only move the camera. But it was also one of the first games that I played that was like super graphic kills. There wasn't a lot of blood, but you would like kick a dude down and then you'd slam the sword into his face, and it was just one of the first games that had that I played, and I loved it. And it wasn't overly bloody, so I wasn't just, I don't know, we can argue about video game violence for a long time to come, but it was different, and I enjoyed it, and it was satisfying each kill that you made. And it also threw in like this sneaking element where you had to sneak past guards, or like you would get a huge group of people around you. And it was just a combination of all these things that I enjoy separately from games, but it was from this just, I don't know, hidden gem of a game, and I loved it.
That's pretty cool.
That sounds pretty awesome. You've definitely sold the game to me. I would like to see if I could find it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, not that I support emulated games that you don't own, I think there are some PS2 emulators that have it out there.
I would imagine there are. Oh, well, that's a good game, though. I like hearing about games that I never thought would be good, or even haven't heard about, but were really that astounding. Marshall?
All right, I got to think about whether or not I want to start off the bad with the good or the good. I'll stick with good first. Okay, so way back when I was a youngster, getting a bunch of games for the Super Nintendo, and I had gone through a couple of them. I mean, I was a huge fan of Super Mario World when that came out, and I was searching for, like, I want to get another Mario game. And then I found this game, another Mario game by the name of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. And that, I had no idea what an RPG was. I mean, I hadn't even played Chrono Trigger at that point, which was a fantastic game. But Super Mario RPG was like my first foray into turn-based role-playing games. And that game changed my life in terms of like types of games that I like to enjoy now, like especially strategy games and stuff like that. I mean, I'm a huge RTS freak. I love games like that. I may not be the best at them, but I still enjoy them for what they are. And just something about that game, like I will always go back to it no matter what. I still have the cartridge, thank God. I will always go back to that game and just beat it in like 2 days because, I mean, I know how to do everything. Like, I'm really efficient at it now. But, I mean, when I was a kid, like, I had no idea how to, like, I always put all my points into health because I didn't know, like, special power attacks and all that stuff. Like, I didn't know. But it didn't stop me from enjoying the hell out of it because, I mean, the story was hilarious. And, like, because Mario never talked in the game, he'd always, like, try and, like, mimic, like, what people were saying, and usually like he would actually turn into someone and then like act like they were just so he can get the point across. Like, it was hilarious. And for some reason, like, that game is just one of my favorite games of all time. And just, I had no idea what to expect out of it. especially starting that up, I'm like, what the hell? This isn't how Mario normally plays. But you know what? Like, I'm glad I found it. I'm glad I still have it, just because on eBay that thing goes for like $500+ bucks. So, but I'm never gonna sell it. And then, oh god, all right. So for my bad game, it was only a few years ago, guys, and then y'all said, "Hey, you." When I say you, I mean Caleb and Corey, and I'm gonna blame you all for it. And look, I knew the game was bad. Like, I knew going into it, like, this is not going to be a good game. But then you're like, no, you should get it so you can play with us because we haven't played a bro-op game in forever. I'm like, okay, fine.
Wait, hold on. Caleb, do you want to take bets on what this game is? I have $5 on Homefront.
I was thinking the same thing.
All right,
no,
ahead,
you're
Marshall.
wrong.
Oh, really?
Because I was kind of excited for that game. No, the game I'm talking about is Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City.
I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah.
How could you do that to me? It's $60 bucks, and I'm like, that first level, I'm like, oh boy.
I do take full responsibility for that. I
haven't
deeply
even
apologize for subjecting you to that.
I knew that game was going to be bad. I just didn't realize how bad it was going to be. Like,
oh man,
I remember we played that on the hard difficulty, and like everything was bullet sponges. And then there was that one level where you had to fight the Titan, and then during that mid-fight, another one just happens to just hop into view, and we're like, oh crap, what are we going to do now? That was.
yeah,
I hate
not to
you
mention
so much
there's a
for
point
it.
earlier in that level where you're pretty much guaranteed to die by one of the capsules for the BOWs that hits the ground. Doesn't lock onto you, but it's right in your path, and the area of effect is huge.
Why did you do that to me? Why?
I was misled, okay?
Oh.
Sorry.
I just remember the multiplayer and just getting meleeed so many times, and it was
let's
so
not talk
laggy
about the
every time.
rage-inducing multiplayer that was, and how buggy it was, and how just the lag was just unbearable. Like, they didn't know how to code for worth a damn. It was just so bad.
I mean, I guess definitely shame on me for thinking that a Resident Evil game would have a decent multiplayer for once, because that is not the strong suit of those games.
What are you talking about? We're not still playing Resident Evil 5 or anything.
No, we're not still going for those stupid multiplayer achievements.
We have to. We put in, I'd say 90 hours to get these achievements. We are getting it.
I will judge you so hard if you do.
Oh, it's gonna happen though. It is. But
right.
that is true. That is one of the great underperforming games of this decade.
Alright,
for
Caleb,
my
your turn.
games, I think I'm going to take Corey's approach and do bad first. This was a toss up for me. I was thinking of 3 games. Brink, which Corey mentioned. Homefront was the other one, which we briefly
Awesome.
talked about.
Oh,
The third one though that I really settled on, and mostly because I really thought it was going to be something different and something that I really needed at the time that it was coming out, and that is Kingdoms of Amalur: The Reckoning.
Good choice. Good choice.
Because
Why?
that game had so much going for it, and it's still not the worst game I've ever played. It's certainly no, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, and it's no Brink, but it's just not as good as I wanted it to be. It did not meet my expectations, because it's Kingdoms of Amalur, for those of you who don't know, or Reckoning as I'm going to call it, because it's much easier to say. It is a third-person RPG. And it's not your typical turn-based RPG, but it's a persistent character type of RPG, and you can be one of a couple of different classes, but then you can also put points into. Okay, I'm not explaining this very well, but there's a warrior, a mage, and assassin. Those are your 3 basic classes, and then you can focus on putting some points into warrior and some points into mage, and then you get extra bonuses and skills that become a battle mage. And so there's all these different cards, and it's all about weaving your fate. And so there's these cool fate cards that go into it, and all the skills, but it's just too easy. At its
And also,
core,
it had so many good ideas.
Easy. It did have a lot of good ideas, and the story was supposed to be really good, but after about an hour, I'm just like, okay, I don't care anymore. I just want to go and do this. And then there's all these dungeons that are, supposed to be procedurally generated dungeons, and there's, not, no two dungeons are alike, and there's all these loot things that you can find, but it just, I don't know, there was something about it that it just didn't quite fit. It didn't make me want to go and find the better loot, because the forging system is so incredibly easy to exploit. You can have one of the best weapons in the game within, 4 hours of play? I mean...
Oh, you can get it quicker, trust me.
Corey had it down to a system.
Yeah, Corey, you spent a good amount of time doing that.
Completely decked out gear, and we hadn't even made it past the first world yet. And then the lack of co-op and everything else, it wasn't what I wanted it to be.
I definitely agree with you, and I think that the skill trees and like the skill cards that you got for doing dual skill trees were awesome. I think that the combat was so much fun and fluid and dynamic. You could have Xena's war. What are those called? The discs that she threw?
The chakrams.
Chakrams, yes. Like I don't think I've ever seen chakrams in a game before. Like that was awesome.
And yes, the spinning frisbees of doom were my favorite weapon in that game.
Right, and the combat was a ton of fun. The problem got to be that you just became a god like 3 hours into the game, and you didn't have a challenge anymore. And I think what you were talking about with the story and things like that is that I think the developers said that there was like 200 hours to complete everything in the game, and because of that, it's just like all the names were the same, all the missions started to blur together, even like main storylines led you to a dungeon with a boss at the end, and the dungeon looked very similar to 8 that you had done in the past hour. It's just the whole story, and it was bland in every other aspect besides combat and skill tree and forging, I think.
Right, and I agree, and that's what keeps it from being a really bad game is the combat was really fun, but it just was too easy. I mean, I went for the pretty much straight up mage, and with a little bit in the warrior tree, but I mean, before, like we were talking about, before I had exited the first main world, I had a skill that could rain this huge meteor from the sky and then turn that into a lightning storm. And I mean, I could do that and then another powerful spell, and if there's anything left, I still had enough mana to do my third one, and I could wipe anything out, any number of enemies off the screen. And it was fun, and it was satisfying as hell, but it was just not challenging enough. The line of being able to make a character feel strong and not invulnerable, they didn't meet that mark.
So what was the game that surprised you the most?
The game that surprised me the most. This was a hard choice for me too. I debated Mirror's Edge because that is a fantastic game. But I settled on really wanting to talk about Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This game was for the PlayStation 1, and it was released in 1997 when I was a wee 8 years old. And it's kind of unfair, like you were saying, Josh, where I kind of didn't really have that many expectations about it, so it was kind of easy to beat it. But this game is kind of become really popular, but it's a cult classic, almost like Pulp Fiction is really, really popular now. But when it first came out, it really didn't do so well. And this game is a 2D hack and slash, but it's Metroidvania. I mean, it is the other half of that phrase, where you have a 2D game that is not completely linear. It has this big map where you can go into these different areas, and as you learn more skills or acquire different weapons, you're able to then open up parts of that map that you can go and explore. And it just was, when I picked up this game, I wasn't 8. I didn't get it right of the year it came out, but I was still pretty young. I might have been 2 years later, and I was walking through Babbage's. Yeah, you guys remember Babbage's?
Wow.
Yeah, that takes you back.
Oh boy.
Walking through Babbage's, looking for a game with my brother, and I see this Castlevania game. I'm like, oh, Castlevania! I love Castlevania. I've seen my brother play it on the the Nintendo, and Super Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo was awesome. And so I looked at it, and the back looked sweet. You had vampires and swords and magic-y stuff, and so I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. So I picked it up, and I had no idea the experience that I was in for. And this game, still today, is probably my favorite game of all time. It is absolutely in my top 3, and it's hard for me to say that it's not my favorite game of all time, because I have beaten it upwards of 30 times, and I can always go back and play it. There's so many different ways that you can play the game. You can go for a collecting all the items run. You can go for a speed run. It's not quite as versatile as like we were talking about with Monaco. I mean, it's still a 2D platforming hack and slashy type game, so you can't really play it exactly any way that you want. But there's still a lot of different ways to play it, and a lot of different ways to accomplish the end goal. You can kill all the bosses. You can only kill the important ones. I don't know. The exploration and the nostalgia. But even at the time when I picked it up, it just was so much more than what I expected to get out of the game.
Yeah, no, that's I think that qualifies. I mean, the game did come out in '97, so I mean, I don't expect them to have top-notch AI as to what we can do now. But
16 years later, and I can still go back and beat it and love every second of it. So
it's very good. All right, so I guess we can talk about Curiosity. What's in the box, Marshall? If you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we could definitely wrap up the show doing that. I'll keep this quick. A couple months back, like last E3, Peter Molyneux announced something called the Curiosity Cube. Now, for those who don't know, Peter Molyneux is pretty much the head of Lionhead Studios.
Of Lies?
No, not anymore.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's now 99 Cans, I believe.
22.
22. Words. Close enough. But his games are known for Black and White, which were the first God Simulator games, and then the Fable franchise. I mean, some say they were okay. Some say they're great. I mean, it's all up in the air. But, for me, Molyneux kind of overhypes a game and then it undersells. But back at E3, he kind of announced this thing called the Curiosity Cube, and it was just a simple, an experiment, as it would, of people trying to work together to try and unlock this cube. And so it went live towards the end of last year, I think maybe back in November. And so millions of people have been trying to unlock this thing over time, just slowly taking off the layers of it. And then finally, maybe 2-3 days ago, I believe on the 26th of May, so depending on when this podcast actually comes out. So 26th of May, someone finally gets in, and only one person gets the prize. It's that last person who gets it, who gets that final piece. And what they get was a private YouTube video that no one has ever seen. Only 3 people have actually seen that video. Molyneux, who is in it, and then the 2 other people who helped put it together, the sound guy and the video editor. And so essentially Molyneux talks directly to you, the person who won, and he says, hey, as your reward, you're going to be a god in the new Goddess game. And Goddess is a Kickstarter game that he started with his new company. It broke their Kickstarter fund, and it's essentially a new God Simulator game. And the reward is you get to be God in that, which is freaking awesome to start off with. But then it sounds like this person's going to be really in depth with the company, as if he's going to be a new employee. To which at that end, he kind of ends it with, you'll pretty much be getting a royalty check or a royalty fee for any game that is sold. Every copy of Goddess is sold. He said you'll essentially get a piece of that pie, which, you know what? Hey, it's not an actual cash reward, but technically it kind of is, depending on whether or not the game sells. But I'd say that's a pretty freaking cool reward. I don't know.
That
what do you
is
guys
BS. Flat out, that is absolute BS. Ugh, Molyneux.
Molyneux.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Yes, it's an awesome prize, but that is such ridiculous nonsense that it's the last person who chips it away. You could be the dude who pops in at the last 5 seconds. And you're like, oh, hey, this is cool. And you win the freaking prize. And there's been somebody else.
I was kind of thinking of doing that too. I almost wish I did.
Are you kidding me? There could have been somebody who solved half the puzzle, slaving away for 3 months, just for the curiosity's sake. And they're gypped because they weren't the last person. That is ridiculous.
It could have been worse. It could have been a bot that got that. So at least it was an actual human being, someone from Scotland, I believe.
You're right. It could have been worse. Molyneux could have come to that person's house.
Oh, God.
Mr. Molyneux, please sit down. Take a seat.
That makes
Honey,
me
call
so,
the cops.
That makes me so angry.
Hey, man, we'll see down the road whether or not this actually lives up to the expectations. But hey, from a surface point, that's pretty cool. But again, this is Molyneux we're talking about. He is pretty freaking crazy. So we'll leave it at that.
It is a neat concept. I mean, I think that's really cool.
No, it's a shitty concept. I'm going to throw that out there.
No, not the concept of who wins, but the whole cube itself.
No, the whole thing. Oh, we're going to put something that takes you a year to get through. One person gets the prize.
It took him like 5 months.
Even though you probably put like 800 hours into it. And all that's inside is a video of me. How egotistical is that? That is some bullshit.
I
think the term is Molyneux-tistical.
I was about to say, remember, this is Peter Molyneux we're talking about, so come on now.
I do not approve.
Here.
Yes.
So,
But anyway, thank you for sharing, Marshall. That was not something that I had been keeping up with.
And for good reason.
And now I see why.
Now my suspicions are confirmed. It was something I wouldn't care about.
exactly. So I guess that wraps it up for tonight.
Yeah, I guess. I'm good.
Yeah. So in short, we talked about some good, some bad, and some Molyneux.
Yep.
So
exactly. That
Yeah.
should be the title. Josh, you do that right now.
if it falls in line with a James Bond movie title, then possibly.
No, you've
Okay.
revealed our trade secret.
No.
We have to kill you now.
Jeez.
And with that,
I'm
one more
Josh
time.
Shigani.
No, hold on. That's not how it works,
You
Josh.
said and with that. I'm Josh Shigani.
No,
That's how we
I
end.
have to do my spiel.
I thought you did that after we all were like, blah,
don't
blah, blah. And
break
you're like, take
procedure.
care. I love you all. And I'm like,
We'll
don't
do it
that.
live.
It's
We made it
bullcrap.
so
do it
close.
live.
We did.
It was so
Ugh.
close.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
I'm Josh Shigani.
we are Random Respawn. Yes, Josh, we know who you are. Please, if you want to keep up with any interesting news that we find during the days of the week, go to facebook.com/randomrespawn. And then if you want to check out our hilarious videos on YouTube, check out youtube.com/wearerandomrespawn. And hopefully we'll have this podcast up by the end or sometime in the middle of this week. And we'll do that every week if possible. So with that, I am Marsh Barringer.
I'm Josh
Corey
Shigani. Oh, no.
Trout.
I'm just kidding. I thought it was going to be funny, but it wasn't. Sorry.
He's Corey Trout. The other one's Josh Shigani. And I'm Caleb Jones.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Hey, everyone. What
up?
the
I got a
flip was
cough.
that?
Sorry.
What the hell?
Sorry, I had a cough. I didn't want to start it.
Oh my God.
that was frightening.
Well done.
That was like
Yeah, I really felt I had that take, too.